Hi everyone. For today's exercise, we are going to execute a 25 stroke painting. This is an incredibly valuable lesson in the concept of economizing, or keeping it simple, or as I like to say, KISS, keep it simple, sweetheart. 25 stroke paintings are packed with valuable information. At the end of the day, all of those little anecdotal tidbits of technical information all lead down the same road to keep it simple. Whether we are simplifying our choice of our motif, we are squinting our eyes and compressing extraneous information into a simpler bit of information, we are pre-planning, pre-mixing, using larger tools, using creative brushwork, and forcing ourselves to lay down fresh color and leave it. So let's get crack-a-lackin'. I'm using a split primary palette here. This is my basic palette I've been using for more than 20 years. From left to right, I use, first I'm using Alkyd White today. And I am using Cad Yellow Medium, Yellow Ochre, Cadmium Orange, Cadmium Red Medium, Alizarin Crimson Permanent, Dioxazine Purple, Ultramarine Blue, Cerulean Blue, and down here I have some Raw Umber, my basic palette. Sometimes greens come and go, but this has pretty much been my basic palette for more than 25 years, something like that. But okay, I'm going to pre-mix my color today so that we have fresh color. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is grab some white and mix the mass that makes up the water. It's the largest mass here, so that is going to, I'm just going to mix that one first. One thing I noticed is that the water is approximately a value 7 or 8. And I'll be mixing my color using my value scale and my ruby beholder. And the most important thing to me is value. So this ruby beholder, as you can see, it's just a clear red piece of plastic. And as you look through it, you can see the inherent value of color right from the tube and as you're mixing it. So I'll be making my judgments based on the old ruby beholder and my value scale and my eyeball, of course. Okay, just some color mixing tips. You'll notice that the value on these three colors, the colors that are in my sky, I'm sorry, this is the water and that's the sky colors. If you look at them through the ruby beholder and then you look at the reference, you'll notice that the water is approximately a value 6 maybe? That look right? Yeah, about a 6, and the sky colors are in the 7, 8 range. And so I'm telegraphing those values on the my palette. So I get an idea of how those values are, and I can see how they look next to each other on the palette. Another good tip is if you are mixing a color that's a value less than a value 5, so value 6, 7, 8, and 9, start with white and then stain the white rather than the opposite. Otherwise, you can get into mixing problems where you're just building enormous piles. If your pile's getting too big and you're not getting the color that you're looking for, then cut your pile in half and start over. Okay, there are 3 transitions in my sky. You can see on the right-hand side there's this orange color, and it fades to this yellow color on the left, and up top we have this light blue color, which is really the color of the water, just a lighter version of it. So I could even steal a little bit of this color from the water here and mix it right into that pile. Another thing, I'm just going to do my 25 stroke painting on a small 6x8 panel with large brushes. So I'm pre-mixing a lot of color. I'm using more color than I think I will need. I don't want to interrupt the process by trying to match color, right? I want to have enough paint on there. So there we are. That looks pretty good. So one thing I do is I put some on the back of my my knife, and I can hold it up to my value scale, and I can sort of test drive it and kind of see like clearly that's much lighter than a value 3, so it's up here in this register here. And using my Ruby Beholder, I can actually zero in and get an idea of the appropriate value. Okay, that looks good. Another thing what is off camera here is I use an old Yellow Pages, or in this case it's an old Dick Blick catalog, just to get a lot of the paint off of your palette knife. Saves on paper towels. Not a bad little trick. All right, the last pile I need now is the cloud pile, which to me looks like it has a violet base. Now that cloud is probably a value 4 or 5, right? Somewhere around here. So I'm going to start with a dark. So I'm going to grab some violet and some blue. That's what I see. I ask myself, which one of the 3 primaries is that cloud closest to? It's blue, closer to blue than it is red or yellow. So I grab my blue, or in this case, even violet right next to it, dioxazine purple or ultramarine blue. And, you know, because my mixing knowledge tells me that these are both a value 2 in the value scale, and I'm looking for a 5, I'm simply going to grab lighter colors before I even grab white, just to see if I can alter that a little bit. That's very chromatic, as it is right now, so I will dull that down. The opposite of blue or purple is orange or yellow, right? So this looks very blue to me, so I'll add a little orange to it. A little orange goes a long way, so and we just want to dull that color a little bit. I want a more neutral version. It was way too chromatic. And we'll see here. Let me grab a little white and see how that looks. I think even a little bit lighter. So a little more white. Voila. That's a small pile. I'm going to have to make more of this color, whatever it is. I'll do a little value test. Just kind of gauge where I am. It looks like that's a value 4 approximately. See that? See how the value just simply disappears if I hold it up to 4? Okay. This still looks too purple to me. It's perfectly fine. I'm going to add more, some yellow ochre. Let me add a lot. You know, we need more paint, don't we? And yellow ochre is not much of a stainer, so you need a lot for it to sort of have its effect. Okay, good. I think we dropped the value here. That looks better. We've dulled that purple. It's more of a neutral violet now. And our pile is much bigger. Now is it too yellow? Let's take a look in the context of everything else. A quick value check. Yes, it's definitely between 4 and 5 now. And I think that's approximately what the value is in my painting. I might go a little bit lighter. Just a pinch. Maybe bring it closer to that 5. Something tells me I need more paint. Yep, that's a value 5 right there. Pa-pow! Okay. All right. I think we are ready to go. I'll mix up a little bit more of that, and I think we'll start our painting. Okay, my color is mixed for my 25-stroke painting, and now I will do a simple drawing of the major masses. So One of the real big lessons in this, again, is to KISS, keep it simple, sweetheart, and economize. So we've deliberately chosen a simple motif. A simple motif, again, is a motif that has 5 or fewer shapes. So one of the first lines I make is the horizon line, and I can see in my reference that the horizon line is just above the halfway point. I'm using a small, what is this? A small flat brush with a little raw umber to do my drawing. That looks about right. Okay. I can see that the distant headland, if you, well, let me unpackage it this way. When I draw, I think in terms of halves, like I split the canvas in half visually, both horizontally and vertically. So I think in terms of halves and sometimes quarters, right? And so I even compartmentalize when I draw. So for example, we have a large space here and a smaller space here. Within this smaller space, you can see in the reference that the distant headland, about halfway up from this smaller space, halfway up is where that landmass touches here, right? You see that? Maybe slightly below her, maybe. Okay. And if you look at the other end, you see that it's maybe, what, 1/5 approximately the size here, right? And it comes down, and so really if you just kind of meet these two, meet those two lines, take a look and eyeball it. Look, Ma, I'm drawing. Okay, so we start with a broom and we finish with a needle. That means we start with the large masses and we work our way to medium-sized shapes and then smaller shapes within that. So we'll take another smaller shape from this. How about that? We'll take the cloud. So now if I look at the space where this landmass is and the remaining sky, I'd say that the cloud comes in at just slightly less than the halfway point up there, right? And it just kind of does the same thing, and it weaves its way across the canvas. It has a little convex feel to it. Pretty simple. So within this remaining space, there is a smaller piece of that cloud, and we can see that it starts right here, and it comes slightly past the halfway point, right? If the halfway point is here, it comes just slightly past the halfway point. We're not slaves to what we see. We are poets, not reporters, after all, right? And then there are some minor shapes within there that I will leave out. So I'm really just dealing with the major shapes here. So for my purposes, this drawing is almost complete. Now I need to find the mass of the boy who's fishing, and there's a bunch of rocks and some trees, that kind of thing. And so I can see that this dark mass on the right, if I was to look at this space from here to here, looking at the negative shape between the top of that and the horizon line and trying to see how much space this occupies. I can see that it comes down about here. And this rock that the boy is standing on comes out to about the halfway point. I do have a video on drawing where I use diagrammatic lines, the grid, the unit, a few drawing devices to help accurate drawing. And it's a short video, worth watching. It has some good tips that I stole from some of my instructors. Okay, so then we have this boy. We can see his head is right above the this mass here. And this is all in silhouette, which keeps this simple. This is actually my son at this cottage that we rent every summer. Whoa. His shorts actually come up to about the top. Not the top, slightly below the top here. I had those a little low. All this detail, it's going to be a 25-stroke painting. And by the way, the strokes haven't started yet. You're allowed to draw first. Okay. Okay. Okay, there he is. And his fishing rod is a minor shape, so I'm not going to put that in. So, there you go. Now, to start our painting, 25 strokes, baby. Okay, we are ready to paint. We have our color pre-mixed. I have my composition drawn out, and I've selected some brushes. Now, there's so many great little lessons in here. One of them is pre-planning or visualizing what your motif will look like as a finished painting. Or as Don DeMere says, don't paint the picture, picture the paint. So in other words, you're looking at your motif and you're visualizing what it will look like as a finished painting and therefore how you will execute it. You're strategizing from the beginning, middle, and end. And it's through this visualizing process that you increase your odds of having a more successful painting. So these are the brushes I'm selecting. They're pretty good sized brushes. Let's look. If you look at the ratio of the size of the canvas and the width of that brush, that's a pretty good size. So you want to use the largest brushes you can for as long as you can. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to telegraph the painting and visualize how I'm going to paint it. I'm probably going to start with the darks. So I'll use the biggest brush I can. And so I am going to load my brush, both sides, as much paint as I can. And that'll be one stroke right there. Actually, that's a silhouette, so I can probably paint right through the form. 2 strokes, possibly 1 stroke actually, possibly come back. That's 1 stroke. 2, I'm just telegraphing. 3. I bet I can finish the figure in 4 strokes. Okay, so I didn't make count for the silhouette here. 5. We'll say 5 strokes to get my darks in. And so yes, I'm twisting the brush and I'm using creative ways to use the brush. That's another one of the valuable lessons. All painting isn't just simply using the brush and making strokes like this, predictable strokes, up, down, left, right, and patting. You hold the brush any way you want. It's about making the marks. Twist the brush, load it with thicker paint. Okay, so 5 strokes in. Then I will execute, say, the cloud shapes. And I can probably do that cloud shape in, with my 6th stroke there. 7. Okay. Then I will put my sky in. The sky has a gradient, so that'll be 8. And I'll probably have to reload the paintbrush. 9, maybe 10, just to kind of clean it up. There's lighter sky up here. That'll be 11. I'll do that in 1 stroke. I know, you think I'm crazy, right? All right. 11 strokes. Then I'm going to, this is my biggest brush here. I'm going to really load this sucker up. Stroke 12. If there's still paint or not, I can twist this over and get as much paint. I'll probably be out of paint by there. What is that, 11? Reload the brush. Get 12 in there. Little nook right there. 13. We'll say 14, 15. Then it's going to be a matter of cleaning up. 16 to have that reflection, maybe 17, and I'll use the remainder to sort of clean things up. Little minor shapes. But I think, yeah, I think 17 should do that. I mean, 25 strokes. Okay. Who's ready? Here I go. Putting a little liquid on my brush, and I'm really, really loading it. You can see how much paint I'm using there. Both sides are loaded, and this is a fairly long flat. Wish me luck. Here we go. Stroke number 1. We're still alive. Stroke number 1 coming back. Oh yeah, getting ahead of the figure. Look at that. We're really getting the money's worth with stroke 1. It helps to load that brush up. The paintbrush has not left the canvas. Stroke 1. Oh, that's too funny. Oh wow, we're really getting our money's worth. This could be a 10-stroke painting. We're heading back. For those who didn't think it could be done. All right. Oop. That'll have to go to the repair shop. 1 stroke, baby. So we'll make a little mark right here. Let's see. We'll make our mark right here. 1 stroke. Okay. Just for fun. There's 2. That little guy. That was 2 and 3. 2, 3. Okay. Okay, I'm going to clean off my brush. 3 strokes, who knew, huh? Let's go right to the clouds. I'm going to squeeze out a little more liquid. It's not pretty. And I'm not pretending this is going to be the way I make paintings moving forward, but there are so many great little lessons in here. Okay, loading up my brush with the cloud color that I pre-mixed. And again, you can see I'm really loading that sucker up. Okay, good. It's stroke number 4. Probably could have have used a little more liquid on that. It's not flowing like I want it to. So there's a lot of little minor lessons too on the consistency of your medium and your paint and how to get the consistency of the paint you want. You know, if I could criticize myself, I'd say that first few strokes, the darker colors were a little thin. And this one is a little thick. All right, that's stroke number 4. So I'll add a little more liquid to the paint. Let it flow a little bit more. Just feeling it out. I'm not pretending I've cracked all the codes to good painting. All right. Stroke number 5 coming at you. Stroke 5. "20 strokes to go, folks, if you're following at home." All right. Cleaning off my brush. You're going to use a lot of paper towels or a lot of rags or your yellow pages on this one. It gets messy using thicker paint and trying to lay it down. So okay, here we go. Stroke number 6. This is going to get dicey. Let's see. All right, I'm going to have to use a 6. All right. Here we go with the sky color. I'm using a fresh brush. I don't want the grays from the cloud to get into that pure color of the sky. I'm going to start with the yellow and work my way from left to right. Stroke number 6. See, right about here, it begins to fade. But I'm going to pull that right into the space where the orange would be. And I'll let the orange do some of the work as well. A little twist of the brush. And pull that right into this space here. Stroke 6. Here's stroke 7. Okay, now loading the brush up with that orange to finish off the sky. Stroke number 8 coming at you, if you're following along at home. Wagering is not allowed. All right. I feel like I didn't get my money's worth on that one. That's stroke 8, right? Yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8, boom. All right. I'm a righty. This one's going to kill me, but here we go. My plan is to twist this sucker around and pull it into that orange, yellow rather, and get a fade. Let's see how that works out. It sounded good on paper. terrible. Monet's turning over in his grave. All right. That was 9, I believe, right? Sure was. All right. There's 10. I'm going to clean my brush off and finish off that sky with one little stroke up top. And I can use a smaller brush for that. I am using liquid as well. Liquid is just a quick dry medium, and it helps the flow of the paint. In this case, that's all really I care about. It just as an exercise. So I'm just more interested in flow, and I don't really care about quick dry. But okay. Yep, that cloud, above the cloud, there's a, it's really the lightest light in this whole painting. And this will be stroke 11. Not leaving any paint at all. What's going on here? Bad choice of a brush. Going to come back this way. I want that convex feel. I'm coming back. Got plenty of paint on here. Stroke 11. Okay. Okay, here comes the whopper. Using a pretty good sized brush. I'm loading it up with liquid already, you can see that. And my biggest pile is the water. Wish me luck. Stroke 12. Here goes nothing. Let's go this way. Get my money's worth here. 12. That's one stroke. That's getting the job done there. Helps to load that brush. Wow. I'm always humbled by that. I'm going to try to sneak in this little valley here. And clean up that little guy. I don't want to waste a stroke on that. Not bad. Stroke 12. Okay. This is going to be just cleanup, right? A lot of cleanup in this one. So the major strokes are almost done. That's good news. Here comes 13. Lucky 13. I'm going to come in hard in the top here. Stroke 13. Again, it's not pretty, but every time I do these, I always say to myself, wow, there's something really, there's freedom in here. There's qualities of it that I like. Again, not pretending I'm going to adopt this as a style, but the freshness of the paint, the idea of leaving the paint down, laying it down and leaving it, and maintaining fresh color. It's a reminder of how many failed paintings I've had because the paintbrushes just kept licking the surface over and over again, where you may have had a really nice color transition or a value transition, and you've ruined it by the brush going over and wrecking that area. Like you had it perfectly at one point, and then through licking is just a term that means your brush goes over the same area over and over again, you lose the integrity of that particular passage. Okay. All right, it's cleanup time. Coming on stroke number 14. So we start with the broom, the larger brushes, and move to the medium-sized brushes, and proceed to a needle. Start with a broom, finish with a needle. This will just be one stroke. Is that right? Yeah. 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yes, okay. 14 will be repair shop. Got a nice clean line here. So we got 10 more strokes rather to go to our repair shop. And look at these. These seem like wasted strokes, don't they? 16, 17. And we'll have to come back the other way and clean it the other way, won't we? Let's see who needs the most repair. Alrighty. Let's see. Let's make that sky prettier. This will be stroke 18. 19, we're going to fix the boy here. Technically that lifted up, so I'll give you 20 on that. See, I play fair. Just a little glitch. $19.20. Five more strokes. $21. $22. $23. The party's almost over. Two more strokes. What are they going to be? Anything bothering you? I'll put a little love in that cloud up there. Maybe that's what it needs. All right. 24. I feel like we're good here. That's 24. And the last one, maybe we'll just toss the fishing rod in his hands and call it a day. All right. Voila. 25 strokes. Anything sliding off. Anyway, so there you have it. Again, it's not pretty, but it gets the job done. And we have checked off a bunch of valuable little lessons in here. I have this adhered by tape, and it just happened to be sliding off there. My high-tech equipment here. So step number 1, simplify your motif and your selection. So choose an image that's simple. 5 or fewer shapes. And this is true in this exercise as it is true when you're choosing a motif to select for a painting that you're going to spend more than 25 strokes on. Always squinting and seeing simple shapes. Pre-plan. Don't paint the picture. Picture the paint. So you want to look at your motif or nature and visualize what it will look like as a finished painting. Pre-mixing your color to keep fresh color. Lay it down and leave it. Avoid licking and going over passages where you had the appropriate amount of chroma or an appropriate value change, appropriate value harmony. And how many times do we ruin those harmonies by simply going over them and licking them? Use the largest brushes you can. Start with the broom, finish with a needle. So that's a metaphor for not only seeing the large shapes and then proceeding to the medium and then smaller shapes, but also using the largest brush you can and then proceeding to the smaller brushes. 6 would be creative brushwork itself. Twisting the brush, holding the brush in a unique way, double loading it, thinking in terms of leaving a long stroke instead of a series of smaller strokes with fresh paint. And there you go. Hope this was helpful in learning to economize, and it's a great fun exercise, simple to do, and not a bad way to do a study before you execute a larger version of a particular image. Okay, economize. Thank you.